victims of violence. Their pictures are lined up in the backdrop of this podium. These folks, these people had their lives taken abruptly and viciously from us. The circumstances surrounding their death, each and every one of them, if everybody has their phones on silent or vibrate, we will observe a moment of silence for all the souls that have already been lost in the unnecessary, mindless violence that is affecting all of Bangladesh. A minute of silence, please. Thank you, everyone. Continuing with our program, we will have a couple of video testimonials and presentations. The first one is by a respected member of our community, Geeta Sikanji, and she will relate to us her conversation, her heartbreaking conversation with an individual from Bangladesh who was asked to speak but could not because of the sense of fear that has gripped the community.
To speak today. My name is Geeta. First of all, I want to thank Hindu Action and Kona for giving me this opportunity to speak today. My name is Geeta Sikand, and I am Associate Clinical Professor at University of California, Irvine. I am here to share a very important experience I had recently with the rising spate of hate and violence against innocent Hindus in Bangladesh just for being Hindus. As we know, they are being lynched, they are being burnt alive, and nothing is being done about it by the Bangladesh government of Yunus Khan. Now, there has been no media coverage on these events whatsoever. So to bring the events to the media, we Hindus in America held a nationwide rally in 25 cities. And in these cities, we were very peaceful and we brought awareness. And in this context, because I was one of the lead rally persons in the in the Los Angeles rally, I reached out to Swamiji at the ISKCON Mandir in California to participate in the rally. I specially phoned and invited him. And he came on the phone, and when I invited him, he started crying and he said, Geeta ji, if I come to the rally to participate and my face and I am seen in the video in Bangladesh, they will even increase the violence more on my people there. So we both started crying because Even, American Hindus here are traumatized by this event, by the series of events. So we ask that a congressional hearing be held expeditiously by the members of Congress. Thank you very much.
We thank Geeta ji for recording that message to share with our audience over here. Geeta ji was going to travel, but due to weather concerns and everything, she couldn't make it. But I hope the gravity of the situation is settling in with just this introductory video. The next one is a more somber video being presented by a young Bangladeshi Hindu student. He is presenting this as Sri Ram, and we thank Kona for sharing this video with us.
Hello everybody, I'm Mohesh, a Hindu from Bangladesh. So my community has been the victims of the coordinated violence and mob attacks since the regime changes in 2024. So today, I'll try to give you a brief picture of what the Hindus in my country are currently going through. That also includes my family, unfortunately. So, so I have visited my county there last December. So what I have observed during my visit is very shocking and alarming. So to give you an idea, so my mom got verbally abused and attacked by our Muslim neighbors following the verdict of the from our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who is currently in exile in India. So they chanted like, you are kafirs, you are infidels, so we're gonna kick out from our country. So by the way, we are called traitors, infidels, Indian agents for our Hindu identity. And my younger brother, who is a doctor and currently works in a private hospital, which is now completely taken over by a Muslim fundamentalist group, Jamaat Islami. And so he is currently at high risks of being attacked at any time due to his Hindu identity. And several of my friends who work in the government sector, they are being sacked from their jobs because of their Hindu identity. So what I have observed during this visit, particularly December, it's utterly shocking. So my city used to be a culturally diverse city, but during my visit, I have been observed with several burning down of the cultural places, and there is literally ban on performing arts like singing, dancing, music, painting. All forms of performing arts are now being banned across the country. And this is on cultural attack, and also unfortunately the December 16th, which is our victory day, there was no celebrations, there was no victory parade, there was no country songs. So this supposed to be a day of great pride and emotions for us, but as I felt like that identity is now completely gone, and a country has now losing its identity. So what's particularly shocking is that the country is now taken over by the unruly mobs and run by them, and the current government, the unionist government, is not taking any steps on those things, and it's all happening under his watch. So there is no law and order, and there is no press freedoms. Unfortunately, several of the prominent press media houses got burned down during my visit, and because of those reasons, nobody published those newses, and those newses are not coming out in the international mainstream media. So nobody knows that There are going to be a silent ethnic cleansing of the minorities in Bangladesh. And it's very dangerous to talk about those things in particular, but I have feel that moral responsibility to talk about that on behalf of my community, because I felt that somebody needs to speak out against those atrocities. Without the actions and the interventions from the world's influential leaders and think tankers and the human rights organizations, Hindus will not survive even for a decade in my country, and they will become, my community will be completely exterminated from our homeland. So that's why I feel that kind of moral responsibility to talk about these things. I don't know, but I will particularly urge the world influential figures to think about that and think particularly what needs to be done to stop those kinds of atrocities and ethnic cleansing of the minorities in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Again, another very difficult to hear testimonial. And you will see that there are more important and somber messages that will come throughout the briefing. Next, I would like to invite Arifa Rahman Ruma, Associate Professor, Bangladesh Open University, former Counselor, Embassy of Bangladesh, for her presentation.
August 5th, 2024 marked the beginning of a dark chapter.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I am Arifa Rahman Ruma, former political councillor of Bangladesh Embassy. Since August 5th, 2024, Bangladesh has been witnessing a grave humanitarian crisis. I am here to share a reality that goes beyond the headlines, a reality of fear, violence, and systematic injustice. Now I am showing you a video documentary.
August 5th, 2024 marked the beginning of a dark chapter of oppression in the history of Bangladesh. Chaos spread across the country. There were killings, robberies, extortion, rape, and widespread violence. Thousands of families were made homeless after their houses were burned down. Top criminals and militants from groups such as Hizbut Tahrir, Ansarullah Bangla Team, Hamza Brigade, and other extremist organizations were released from prisons. Bangladesh turned into a safe haven for crime. Through hundreds of murders, this once golden Bangladesh became a land of death. Police stations were deliberately attacked, vandalized, and set on fire. More than 1,000 police personnel were beaten to death, including a pregnant female officer. More than 450 police stations, outposts, and police facilities across the country were targeted, and large quantities of weapons were looted. After this, law enforcement agencies could never return to normal operations. After August 5th, another shameful chapter began with the killing of Tofazal, a mentally unstable person at Dhaka University. Later, Shamim was killed at Jahangirnagar University, and Masood, an employee of Rajshahi University, was also murdered. Bloodstains reached the country's highest educational institutions. In the last 18 months, the biggest achievement of the illegal Yunus government has been nationwide anarchy, attacks on minorities, killings, looting, and arson of minority homes. More than 2,900 incidents against minority communities have taken place during this period. Among the many minority victims, the murder of Deepu Das was especially heartbreaking. In Jamirdia area of Baluka, Mymensingh, he was beaten to death over allegations of blasphemy, then hung and burned. Minority activist Chinmoy Prabhu was also arrested without reason and kept in detention for a long time. In the month of January alone, at least 8 members of minority communities were brutally murdered. There have also been countless incidents of rape and violence against women. According to the Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, at least 51 violent incidents against minorities occurred in December alone. In August 2024, in an interview with foreign media, Yunus said that violence against Hindus was politically motivated. Later, he called these reports exaggerated. This effectively gave justification for brutal crimes such as murder, rape, and even burning people alive. Although the illegal Yunus government speaks of freedom of speech and free media, the media itself is under attack. The country's 2 leading newspapers, Protom Alo and the Daily Star, were burned down. Extremists have also attacked the cultural sector. Udichi, Chayanot, cultural programs, and bowel artists have been targeted. Dr. Yunus has remained silent, effectively supporting these actions. Through the July Mass Uprising, Protection and Determination of Liability Ordinance 2026, all cases related to crimes committed between 1st July and 31st of August 2024 by the participants of the movement have been withdrawn, and new cases are banned. This ordinance provides indemnity to those involved. The attack in Gopalganj in July 2025 is a clear example of serious human rights violations. Many people were killed, and many innocent civilians were brutally tortured and seriously injured. Recently, the wife of Saddam from Bagherhat committed suicide along with her child while Saddam was in jail on false charges. The inhumane Yunus government did not even allow Saddam to attend his wife and child's funeral. Additionally, 30 prisoners have died in jail due to torture and lack of medical care. After August 5th, shrines, mazars, have been among the most attacked places. Across the country, shrines were vandalized and shrine followers were attacked. At Nurapagol's shrine, militants broke the shrine, dug up his grave, attacked the dead body, and set it on fire. Over the past 18 months, countless teachers have been humiliated, from university professors to school teachers. Some teachers, respected as the nation's finest, were even forced to wear garlands of shoes. The country's economy and garment sector have collapsed. Foreign debt has increased, and foreign investment has dropped to zero. Due to chaos and poor law and order, many factories were burned, many garment factories closed, and hundreds of thousands of workers lost their jobs. In this environment of violence and repression, no election under the unconstitutional Yunus government can be credible, especially when the country's largest political party, the Awami League, which led the 1971 Liberation War and has the support of around 50% of voters, has been forcibly excluded. Bangladesh is now moving toward long-term internal conflict. This instability will not stay within national borders. It threatens the entire region. The international community, especially the Western world, can no longer ignore this. The only way forward is to hold a truly free, fair, inclusive election under strict and credible international monitoring.
Thank you all for watching.
An incredible compilation of some of the events that are happening under Muhammad Yunus's watch, or rather his not watchful gaze, where he is willingly looking away from violence at this point in time. Now I would like to invite Rana Hassan Mahmood, political analyst, columnist, and community organizer. He is also the executive director for Center for USA-Bangladesh Relations. Welcome.
Honorable members of the Congress, members from the State Department, distinguished guests, I stand here with a lot of sadness what is happening to my birthplace today. You have seen Dipu Chandra Das. This is not just one incident. Last year, when I stand before you at this podium, I was trying to introduce Dr. Yunus in the words of Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill once said about Soviet Union that this is a riddle wrapped in mystery, inside an enigma. What we know today, what we know now, and what we have been knowing for the last year and a half, Dr. Yunus is no longer a riddle, not a mystery, and certainly not an enigma. West promoted him for last 3 decades, and responsibility is on their shoulder to pull this guy down. Bangladesh is heading towards a sham election with preconceived results. We all know that. This is even worse than a joke. I'm not going to follow up on that one. Whatever happens, happens. But I want to point out 2 things that should concern us as US citizens that is vital to our national security interest. Last year around the same time, Bangladesh government took a decision that to issue passport, they no longer need any police verification. That was done deliberately, and I wrote an article about it at Global Strat View, and nobody followed up on that. The reason that it was done, because as you know, Pakistan is the largest country, or the only country which has, for the harboring of terrorism, terrorism training camp. There's more than 51 designated terrorist camps in Pakistan. Now, we have, eagle's eye on them, so they can't move too much. Now, with this provision that Bangladesh has created, they can easily come to Bangladesh. And Flight 342 that I have read from an investigative journalism, loads of Pakistanis are coming to Bangladesh in last few months, and they will be setting up the training camp here, and they will be traveling around the world. As you know, that Jamaat or BNP, whoever comes to power, doesn't matter at all. They were in power between 2001 and 2006. And if you have read Time Magazine's Alex Perry's article, I believe around February 2002, just 6 months after 9/11, that Al-Qaeda number 2, Ayman al-Zawahiri, was in Bangladesh. And that was reported, and later on he visited Bangladesh twice. So what we are doing here, allowing Yunus to stay in power, we are allowing a new hub of terrorism, the repercussion of which will not be confined within his border. It will go far and beyond that we can imagine today. Remember one thing, the violations that took place, atrocities that took place against the minorities, this is not the first time. During 2001 and 2006 BNP Jamaat period, almost worst case of violence happened since independence. Again, Jamaat was involved. During independence, 3 million people were the victim of genocide. Genocide was against the Bengalis. Bengali Muslims may have escaped in some cases, but not a single Bengali Hindu escaped. Since Holocaust, 1971 was the largest targeted killing of a faith group. And we are allowing the Jamaat to take over the power. And they are in power under the auspices of Dr. Yunus. 2 things concern us today as US citizens. That's number 1, the rise and the flow of jihadists around the world, and secondly, the long march of China towards Bay of Bengal. And Dr. Yunus has been doing both of this. The mega port that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was building, it was almost half done with power plants and everything at Maheshkhali. That could have ushered a new era for business and trade and commerce and prosperity in that region, has been turned into a military complex, or will be turned into a military complex with the help of China, Pakistan, and Turkey. So, just to keep you in perspective, when Pakistan harbored terrorists in their soil, and Bin Laden was found in Pakistan and Afghanistan, you know what happened? We lost 3,000 of our innocent civilians here at our homeland. Now, Bangladesh is the population, if you combine Afghanistan, Iran, and Iraq, that is the population of Bangladesh. The distance between Kabul and Baghdad is about 1,500 miles. If you draw a radius from Bangladeshi border towards west in Indian side, and draw a 500 radius border, and maybe 100 miles border on the eastern side, there is 700 million people living over there. So it's not a joke, it's not a game that we are playing right now. And again, I would like to tell the congressional members here, whatever deals that Dr. Yunus is making with USA, we may think that this is good for our country. No, it's not. You know what? Maybe the deals are good because nobody knows about it. But it is done in such a clandestine way that is creating suspicion among the people of Bangladesh. Suspicion breeds hatred, and hatred breeds violence. So I'm telling you today, if we do not take action tomorrow, we will be suffering the consequences. If we do not take action today, we'll be suffering the consequences tomorrow. If we do not act today, don't blame our destiny tomorrow. We have spent trillions of dollars to fight this Al-Qaeda thing. Jamaat-e-Islam, ideologically, is the father of Al-Qaeda and the grandfather of Taliban. So there's no point of promoting them from Washington, D.C. or any other capital. So with that note, I thank you all for listening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rana, for your thoughtful presentation and message. Now I am honored to invite our keynote speaker, Michael Rubin, to come to the podium. Michael Rubin is a senior fellow of the American Enterprise Institute and a geopolitical expert. I did want to mention that we will have time for a few questions after Michael's presentation. And I apologize in advance that we will be only able to take maybe 3 to 5 questions. But we will be happy to take anything down and communicate that to Michael if there are follow-up questions that are burning in your mind and you want clarification. So with that, I would like to invite Michael Rubin.
Thank you.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wish I could be here under better circumstances. Look, U.S. diplomats like to whitewash rock. And the fact of the matter is what's happening in Bangladesh can't be whitewashed. Religious freedom is always the canary in the coal mine, whether it's with regard to a country like Bangladesh or Ukraine, Russia, China, the Islamic Republic of Iran. We can put whatever patina we want, talking about reform, talking about change, talking about democracy. But how a country treats its religious minorities is a better metric than anything else to show whether or not our efforts at describing reform are substantive or wishful thinking. Now, when it comes to Bangladesh itself and what it's facing, look, the problem with Islamist parties are they are exclusionary. Afghanistan, in which I spent a lot of time, prior to the Taliban's takeover, was technically an Islamic republic. But the Taliban refused to participate with other parties there simply because they wanted what they would call an Islamic emirate. What's the difference between an Islamic republic and an Islamic emirate? The difference is, in a republic, people are allowed to vote for the government. In an emirate, like the Taliban wanted, they didn't believe that religious leaders should be subjected to something as mundane as public accountability to people who might not subscribe to the same views which they do. Now, when we look at Islamist parties, like in Bangladesh's case, like Jamaat-e-Islami, they engage in incitement because they want to use religion to avoid accountability. And you know, it makes sense that that would be their strategy. If you look at Transparency International and its annual report on corruption perceptions, what you will find is that the highest rank for a Muslim majority country in terms of clean economy is the United Arab Emirates at 23. And perhaps it's not by coincidence that the Islamic Arab Emirate, the United Arab Emirates, is constantly being attacked by Islamists and Islamist groups. The highest ranking Islamist state in Transparency International's index is Malaysia at 57th. And so we see a situation in which religion is oftentimes used as an excuse not to undertake internal reforms in favor of transparency and accountability. Now, once tolerance is lost, it's extremely difficult to win it back. Hussein Haqqani, the former Pakistani ambassador to the United States, pointed out, as he regretted what Pakistan had become, what Pakistani society had become, that when Pakistan was founded, Hindu holidays were state holidays, Christian holidays were state holidays, and official commemorations. Today, Christians and Hindus who might gather have targets on their back because Pakistan has become one of the most intolerant societies on earth. Now, this is not what we want to see in Bangladesh. Bangladesh, however, won its freedom from Pakistan, of course, in 1971. But today, Bangladesh is well on its way to become a state of particular concern with regard to religious freedom. I would argue that whatever the Trump administration may think is going on in Bangladesh now, the United States across administrations, whether they're Republican or whether they're Democratic, has a bad habit of being reactive rather than proactive. We may believe what the political officer in Dhaka reports, although we know what he thinks thanks to a leaked report in the Washington Post. But the reality is going to come shining through for the reasons we just heard. Bangladesh is one of the most significant countries in terms of population, in terms of economy. I would argue that it's very much the barometer for South Asia. And also, make no mistake, if Pakistan is able to relitigate what happened in 1971 and essentially try to transform Bangladesh once again into East Pakistan, that is Muhammad Yunus's goal. Don't think that the relitigation is going to stop with 1971. India is going to face a Turkish and Qatari-funded Pakistani and Bangladeshi attempt to undo, to unravel the world's largest democracy next door and incite the Muslim population of India. Now, unfortunately, what we are now doing is making the mistake with our embrace of Muhammad Yunus of what successive US administrations in the international community did with his fellow Nobel Peace Laureate, Burmese politician Aung San Suu Kyi. And what we found when push came to shove is that her kryptonite was religious and cultural freedom. She was all well and good talking about democracy so long as it went her way. But like Muhammad Yunus, if she didn't like the direction it was going, she would betray her liberal principles or show them to have always been a complete fabrication. Now, the other day, I cited in a different context the speech by Edward Dirigio, who under George H.W. Bush was the Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs. And he faced a situation, perhaps not unlike what we see today in Bangladesh, only he faced it in Algeria. And when questioned about why the United States wasn't going to accept an election result in Algeria, what he said was, we support one man, one vote. We don't support one man, one vote, one time, which is too often what Islamist parties are trying to impose. Again, there would be absolutely no reason to ban the Awami League if Muhammad Yunus and Jamaat-e-Islami were correct that it had no legitimacy among the Bangladeshi population. But as Aruf Aruma's documentary showed, over the last 18 months or so, the economic hemorrhaging that has occurred under the stewardship of a man who ironically had received the Nobel Peace Prize for his banking and economic work is something that is actually quite astounding. And as I said before, Islamists like to impose rather than accept public transparency. I mentioned Edward Dirigio. Let me mention Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who of course hasn't won a Nobel Peace Prize, and perhaps never should, although he did win the Muammar Gaddafi Human Rights Prize. What he had said famously as mayor of Istanbul is democracy is like a streetcar. You ride it as far as you need, and then you step off. And perhaps we've seen in Turkey his strategy play out, and certainly we see it playing out in terms of Muhammad Yunus's approach to democracy. Now, if Muhammad Yunus can't answer basic questions, let me put it this way, sorry. Muhammad Yunus is the chief administrator, he's in charge right now in theory. One of the things that has always driven me nuts about both American diplomatic reports and about journalism in general, and God forbid any of you know any of my students, you know what a terror I can be when it comes to anyone's use of the passive voice. A bomb, you know that I worked in the Defense Department and I worked in Baghdad during the war. And I would read press reports about how a bomb went off outside a school and killed 20 people. To me, that sentence is cowardly. Because by using the passive voice, what you're showing is you don't know who set off the bomb, or you're trying specifically to hide the subject. Because we all know, or I mean, as counterterrorism analysts and so forth, bombs don't just randomly explode. Someone will scout out all different schools, They will figure out what time the children are leaving. They will set the bomb, and then the bomb goes off. And if you don't want to explain that aspect of it, you're giving a fundamentally different impression. You're in effect whitewashing terrorism. So when it comes to the names and the faces of the people we see here, if Muhammad Yunus is in control, if Jamaat-e-Islami is backing him, if they have the maturity to be part of government, why are they not able to answer? Why are they not able to order an investigation? If perhaps the answer is because they don't want to know where that investigation will lead, or they do know where that investigation will lead, but they don't want to be held accountable for their actions and their complicity in their murders, then we should call out instead of engaging in the diplomatic equivalent of the passive voice and just saying what happened without actually saying who was responsible. Now, my biggest fear moving forward is, again, given that the US administration, as all past administrations across the political spectrum, tends to be reactive, I'm afraid of an incident in which the State Department will simply, by its own algorithm, congratulate the Bangladeshi people on their elections. And this wouldn't be the first time we have done something like this with clearly fraudulent elections, because make no mistake, an election where a party that's supported by the vast majority of the Bangladeshi people can't participate is the definition of a fraudulent election. And as many of you know, I'm a past election observer inside Bangladesh. Now, I remember that in 2013, President Obama congratulated the Iranian people on making their voices heard to elect the president of Iran in 2013. And just over a decade later, we have at least 40,000 people dead in the streets protesting the fact that the regime, which was blessed in sort of a knee-jerk statement, had absolutely no legitimacy in the first place. Marco Rubio should not do and repeat the same mistake in Bangladesh that we made in Iran in 2013. We also need to, so policy prescription. I work in a think tank now, and we always talk about the helicopter test. Forget the long lecture. Forget the academic theory. You have 30 seconds to walk the President of the United States to his helicopter. You need to make your policy points in that 30 seconds. Please don't time it. What should we be doing? Number one, there are many people who have stood up for religious freedom in Bangladesh. People like Fazla Karim Chaudhary, who have family members in the United States. And yet, they are being persecuted for having worked in Chittagong, in his case, on behalf of tolerance and equality under the law for all people, regardless of their religion. We should be using them as hooks to involve the United States in advocating for the right causes. We should be putting Magnitsky Act sanctions on Muhammad Yunus.
Exactly.
There's absolutely no question about that. Right. We should also, rather than sign trade agreements, we should be talking about sanctions more broadly until legitimacy returns to Bangladesh. I do note, just in conclusion, as a historian, this is the first time I can think of that a defeat of genocide is being reversed. And it really should be a wake-up call, because if you defeat genocide, but you don't defeat the ideology that backs that genocide, it will reemerge. When it comes to the Holocaust, neo-Nazism hasn't been completely snuffed out, but it's been stigmatized. Likewise, when it comes to the Ku Klux Klan, hasn't been completely snuffed out, but it's stigmatized. It's not coming back. Golden Dawn in Greece, stigmatized. It's not coming back. When it comes to the ideology of the genocide in Bangladesh in 1971, it is being actively cultivated in Islamabad, in Pindi, and it needs to be called out. We don't need Bangladesh to revert to be East Pakistan. And so with that, look, I wish I could end my talk with a little bit more optimism, but what's needed is for groups like Hindu Action and Kona to make their voices heard, not just to fellow Bangladeshis, but across the American political spectrum. Because at this point, I don't think the United States knows what's coming. And again, my last point is, every single administration since George H.W. Bush has had their foreign policy legacy shaped by the crisis which no one saw coming during the campaign. With George H.W. Bush, it was the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. With Bill Clinton, it was the downfall of Yugoslavia and multiple wars in the Balkans. With George W. Bush, for whom I worked, it was of course 9/11 and then more controversially, the invasion of Iraq. Of course, Barack Obama promised to end stupid wars, and yet not only did we return to Iraq and remain in Afghanistan, but we also got involved in Libya and Syria. Again, something no one saw coming during the campaigns. Donald Trump in his first term had to deal with COVID. Joe Biden had to deal with Ukraine. It's not a problem of politics that people didn't see it coming. What matters, however, is how people address it once the problem becomes evident. And the more we are proactive when it comes to the disaster that is looming in Bangladesh, the better all American security will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. If you could spare a few minutes to answer a few question and answers, not statements, not commentary, very specific to the points that Michael Rubin highlighted. And this is how it will go. So we will be able to take about 4 or 5. Utsav will go and point out. Utsav, there should be another microphone. We may not give you control of the mic. Please state your question once. We will make sure that it is heard. Utsav will repeat that question, and we will give Michael a chance to answer. And we apologize if we have to stop at 4 or 5. And thank you, Michael, for accommodating this portion of it.
I would just add that people can ask as many questions as they want, but I'm only going to answer the first one. So.
Mr. Rubin, Honorable Congressman, all the dignitaries here. Question is for Mr. Rubin. My name is Dijan Bhattacharya. I make a living by teaching at Columbia University. I teach Bengali there. And I'm also involved with Bangladeshi Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian Unity Council. I have been doing it since 1990 when I fled Bangladesh, and I have scars on my back. I have a question. So, Professor Ruma, you captured it in such a short video, everything. I could not, it's like an entire history you have told in a few minutes. The question for you is, on August 4, when Jamaat-e-Islami, Hizb ut-Tahrir, and the Al-Qaeda and ISIS affiliates of Bangladesh together, camouflaging their advance towards the city, naming it or labeling it as a movement seeking abolition of reserved seats for the War of Independence veterans' children, they overtook the country. They were about to take over the country. Yeah, they were about to take over the country. Mr. Volker Turk called General Walker and told him if they resisted the advance of this Islamist, they would not get jobs in UN peacekeeping mission. Why can't he do it now? Do you know anybody? Look, we are face to face with a cataclysm in 2 days. Is there anywhere, do you have anybody in the world who can call Paul Volcker Turk and say, you did that to to help the Jamatis take over the country, the genocidist party. Can you do it for a good reason today?
Let me just answer this briefly. Well, Volker Turk isn't directly in the line of peacekeeping operations within the United Nations. There has been increasing understanding of the problem. So for example, as some of you know, I do a bunch of work in the Great Lake regions of Africa. And I spent time both in the Democratic Republic of Congo on the government side of the lines, and I've also embedded with M23 insurgents. And one of the things I was hearing hearing from people in the region, especially church leaders, is that there had been a problem with Pakistani peacekeepers who, on an individual level, as opposed to a level of state policy, were engaging in dawah and engaging in incitement in areas that now have an Islamic State problem in northern Democratic Republic of Congo. And this shouldn't surprise, because in order to gain a job as a peacekeeper in Pakistan, you have to ingratiate yourself basically by showing what a good Islamist you are and how, by ingratiating yourself to ISI basically, on an individual level. And because of this dynamic, the Pakistanis were asked to leave the peacekeeping operations in the DRC. So I do think this is something which the United Nations is becoming much more cognizant of. And if you do look on the United Nations peacekeeping pages, you will actually see some changes in the components of different countries that are involved. But you know what? You raise a good point, and the best way to make your point isn't in this audience, but if you're able to write something in the New York Post, in the New York Daily News or what remains of it, in the New York Sun, in any other mainstream outlet, it would get noticed.
Michael?
Okay, please wait for Utsav to come to you. Again, please make it just a question, and please stand up while asking the question so that everybody can hear and see you. And apologies again in advance if we don't get to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dastagir Jahangir from The Voice. Thank you, Michael Rubin. I understand clearly your stand and clearly about Bangladesh. My question on Jamaat-e-Islami. Do you think this party at all a democratic or anything like that, or it's a terrorist organization that America should ban this Jamaat-e-Islami to be a normal political party? Thank you.
I believe it's a terrorist organization.
Hey, thank you.
So Michael, my question is, how do we make America understand this is eventually an American problem, a problem that impacts American people?
You know, across the political spectrum, and this is something I share with colleagues of mine because, in the think tank world, we're not as partisan as on Capitol Hill. And so I know the people that worked in the Clinton administration, I know the people that worked in the Biden administration on the same file as I do. We're all friends. We're all trying to deal with the same facts. We at least recognize the same facts. We may have different policy prescriptions, so be it. But a frustration among anyone in the foreign policy community is that Americans, especially at elections, tend to be so inwardly focused that we don't understand fully the importance of our foreign policy votes or our foreign policy more generally. What I would actually suggest when it comes to Bangladesh, and this may be going away from your question, is the major problem we have right now is that almost everything in the United States seems to have become a political football. And in a situation, we're gone as the days when I was in elementary school of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who would agree on the problem, they might just disagree on the tactics about how to address the problem. The issue right now, and what I would urge, is because Bangladesh isn't a hot-button political issue now. Now's the time to build those coalitions among both Democrats and Republicans. Even if it's a Democrat someone finds odious for their progressive opinions, or a Republican someone finds odious for their MAGA positions, if they're in the Venn diagram of politics, if there's an understanding that a democratic, secular, tolerant Bangladesh is in the US interest, that's what we need to be working on right now, because it is a problem. Now, the fact is, if we can get that kernel of a policy grouping put forward, then I think we can have a much more effective policy, regardless of what the American people might be focusing on right now. And look, this is why we have coalitions, caucuses in Congress. This is why what the House Foreign Affairs or Senate Foreign Relations Committees are supposed to do. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't be putting forward a common vision, because I think we all agree what American interests are. Jamaat-e-Islami is not it.
Thank you very much, your wise and all the comment. My name is Vidyut Sarkar. I'm from Bangladesh and I'm living in New York. And the reason I have to tell you what you think about the permanent solution of Bangladeshi Hindus, because we are in 33% in British time, becomes 23% during Pakistan period, and also during the birth of Bangladesh. Right now we have become 8 to 9%. What you think? What will be better solution for Bangladeshi Hindu or minority population to survive in Bangladesh? How we should act and how we to solve this problem? Thank you.
Look, it's a great question. This is what I would say. Look, under a rule of law, people have to make their own decisions. The problem we have now under Muhammad Yunus and Jamaat-e-Islami is they don't want to allow the minority communities to make their own decisions. They want to force them out. And that's what we need to confront. But I'm not Bangladeshi. I'm not Muslim or Hindu. And so we've got a situation where what I want is for an election, people to have a free and fair election with rule of law. And when it comes to what their confessional preference is, I want people to worship freely, however they so choose, without having anyone else try to tell them what they can do and murder them if they don't do worship as they say.
So I see a lot of people are raising your hands. Michael, how many questions can you take more?
Just one or two, because again, I have kids at home. So.
Okay, I have one here and one there because I have not done justice to this side. So you want to? It needs to be a question.
That's a question. I'll not give any speech here. I like to thank you. I heard a speech few days ago, organized by Bangladeshi community. During that speech, you said categorically that the election that scheduled on February 12th will be the winner. Jamaat-e-Islami said, and there is no competition. If that is the case, my question is, from your closing remarks, that whatever happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, Sudan, whatever countries or UK, sources are created by the US administration. Even our war of liberation in 1971, the people of US in favor of our war of liberation, but the government was not. So my question is there any help from US government that Bangladesh people are facing now? Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a historian, so I get paid to predict the past. I'll give you my final prediction on the election on February 13th. But when I say Jamaat-e-Islami is going to win, look, Jamaat-e-Islami has a lot, there are a lot of other proxy parties. But when I'm talking about Jamaat-e-Islami, I'm talking about it holistically, because one thing we also know about Islamist parties, about various Islamist groups, about terrorist groups, is it's a constant alphabet soup of shifting acronyms, but what doesn't change is the ideology behind them. And the fact is these elections are going to be illegitimate. When it comes to the United States, I'm not one who subscribes to the conspiracy theory view that the United States is behind everything, because first of all, the United States doesn't have that focus, and number two, most people in the United States couldn't place Bangladesh on a map. Largely speaking, so to answer your question, what should the I think there's a lot of things the United States should do. Might just throw the question back. What are you going to do? What is, not you as an individual, you as groups, to show that this isn't just a Bangladeshi issue and that it very much impacts American security?
Exactly.
So we will have just one last question, and since the median age group was pretty high, I'm going to go to somebody really young to bring it down.
Oh yes, I love that.
Hi everyone. I have a very simple question. Recently the White House designated Bangladesh as one of the 75 countries where immigration is, stifled in a way. Do you think that there's any additional effort that may help with Bengali Hindus to achieve refugee status or escape the situation that the U.S. is planning for?
Great question, yes. Hey, first of all, that's the great kernel of a much more serious op-ed that you should write. Seriously. Yes. It's a great question. It has that news hook, and it has a problem, it has a ready solution, and as you know from walking around Congress, or State Department junior officers or whatever, most of the people who are debating these policies are in their 20s. There's no reason why you shouldn't be one of them. That's number one. Number two, this is why I think we need to immediately start having a discussion about whether Bangladesh should be a state of particular concern with regard to religious freedom. Marco Rubio reversed Tony Blinken when it came to Nigeria, because Tony Blinken's approach to Nigeria was wholly based on diplomatic nicety and wasn't based on the facts on the ground. Rubio shouldn't make the same mistake when it comes to Bangladesh, and therefore what I would argue is absolutely you need to write that op-ed, but more broadly there needs to be a focus on designating Pakistan as a state of specific concern with regard to the decline of religious freedom. All the evidence is lining the walls here, and unfortunately it's just the tip of the iceberg. Thank you.
I really apologize.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you so much, Michael, for your thoughtful presentation and your patience in answering the questions.
Between late December 2025 and January 2026 alone, at least 17 Hindus were brutally murdered, many burned alive, and dozens of homes were torched across the country, none of which have led to meaningful justice. Ethnic cleansing is defined by the United Nations as the deliberate removal of civilian populations through violence, intimidation, and destruction of their homes and communities. While not a standalone crime under international law, such acts constitute crimes against humanity and war crimes. Bangladesh's Hindu population has plummeted from approximately 28 to 30% in 1947 to less than 8% today, a staggering loss of more than 50 million people from their historic presence. This demographic collapse has occurred alongside recurring massacres, sexual violence, land confiscation, and forced displacement, particularly intensified during elections and communal tensions. Indigenous communities in regions such as the Chittagong Hill Tracts face parallel repression through militarization and land seizures, further deepening the crisis. Allow me to briefly share 3 illustrative cases that highlight the severity of this crisis and the involvement or complicity of state forces. Case 1, the targeted killing of Hindu police officer S.I. Santosh Chowdhury, August 2024. During anti-government protests, S.I. Santosh Chowdhury was brutally singled out. While Muslim officers were rescued by the military, S.I. Santosh was forcibly taken by the Bangladesh army, savagely beaten, set on fire, and his charred body was found hanging from a tree near Baniachar police station. Disturbingly, a student leader publicly boasted about his role in this murder on video, yet no charges have been filed. This case epitomizes ethnic targeting sanctioned or tolerated by state and military actors. Case 2, the lynching of Deepu Chandra Das, December 2025. Deepu, a 27-year-old Hindu garment factory worker, was accused of blasphemy, an allegation police later deemed unverified. Despite reportedly seeking police protection, factory management forced him to resign and handed him over to a mob of 140 to 150 people. He was brutally beaten, hanged from a tree near the Dhaka-Mymensingh highway, and his body was set on fire roadside, causing traffic disruption. This horrific lynching exposes grave failures in protection and accountability. Case 3, state-supported crackdown on Hindus in Hazari Goli, November 2024. After peaceful Hindu protests against Islamophobic social media posts, joint police and military forces launched a violent crackdown, beating, torturing, and arresting over 80 Hindus, raiding homes, and destroying evidence. Although no deaths occurred, this brutal suppression is widely viewed as a deliberate campaign to intimidate and repress Hindu minorities. A further example is the imprisonment of ISKCON leader Chinmoy Krishna Das, arrested on fabricated charges and held without due process for over a year, a clear attempt to silence Hindu activists demanding justice. The United States has powerful tools at its disposal to respond to this ongoing crisis through the International Religious Freedom Act, the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act, and the U.S. Atrocity Prevention Framework. We urge members of Congress to support the early targeted application of global Magnitsky sanctions and IRFA designations against individuals and entities responsible for systematic persecution of religious and indigenous minorities. This must be coupled with enhanced congressional oversight to ensure atrocity prevention warnings translate into decisive and timely U.S. action. Protecting vulnerable minorities is not only a moral imperative, it is essential to preventing further mass atrocities and preserving U.S. leadership on human rights globally. Thank you.
Yes, I want to share another thing. It's something I shared because when a state has a tribal community, they are doing atrocity in this community. So who is going to save them? The 20 million religion minority is in Bangladesh. So who is going to save them when a state mechanism is not protecting them, rather attacking them? This is the question one. And what the alarming situation is, and Michael Rubin shared with you the genocide in 1971. The ideological thing is alive and stronger than before. What I am watching right now, they're locking the Hindus' house outside and putting some, oil or gases or petrol and start burning. And another thing, killing Hindus anywhere. And most of what's happening is no businessman can do business. They are taking money, they are burning Hindus' house, business places, and murdering them, raping them. But government are not taking any action. So how they are going to survive? And it's alarming situation right now, as like it's happened in 1970 after election, and now it's going the same thing. So please, what is your suggestion? I'm requesting all of you to protect the religion minority and save from another genocide. So the preparation like now by the Islamists is they are going to attack the religious minority and planning to have a genocide again. So world need to be, raise their voice, and on behalf of 20 million Bangladeshi religion minority, I am requesting all of you, please raise your voice and protect this 20 million innocent, most tolerant, highly educated, cultural Bangladeshi religion minority community. Bangladeshi religion minority community are they are the custodian of Bengali culture and heritage. And still now, the religion minority community is 10% higher educated than the general education and a rate of percentage of education. And in all aspects, they are the most cultural. And I used to work with human rights thing more than 35 years. And on England, one person came from England, a human rights activist. He shared with me, and he told, I never seen in this world such a innocent, tolerant, highly educated, and cultural religion minority in this world. So I cannot understand why Bangladeshi people, they want to wipe out this highly educated, cultural, and law-abiding community. This community do not have any allegation they are working against the country or they do have any crime report. So please protect this innocent, law-abiding, highly educated, and cultural community in this world to make flourish this world. Thank you so much. Thank you. Be with us.
Thank you. And we may come back to question and answers later, but we do want to make sure that we get to our other speakers. Utsav has a brief announcement.
So I just want to thank Kausar Momin, who represented Congressman Mark Milosh from the House, Tom Lantos House Human Rights Commission. And he just informed me, he was sitting throughout the meeting and he just left. He informed us that he will be taking this up with the Tom Lantos Commission and he will be pushing for a hearing on the situation in the Tom Lantos Human Rights Commission. So it's a wonderful step forward and hope it happens. And back to you, Farooji.
Is Adele here?
Adele is outside.
Okay. So, Shubho, are you ready? Shubho's presentation. Okay. Shubho? Is a journalist and community organizer, and he has been recently on the ground in Bangladesh, and this is from where he is bringing the most updated information and observations. Thank you, Shubho.
Thank you. Thank you, Hindu Action. Thank you, Kahuna, for this opportunity. Good afternoon, Chairman, ranking members, distinguished member of Congress, and respected guests. My name is Shubho Roy. I'm a Bangladeshi American human rights advocate. I lived in this country for 30 years, but my roots remain deeply tied to Bangladesh. The land of my birth, my heritage, my consciousness. Today I stand here before you, not as politician, but as witness. I'm bringing the voice from the street of Bangladesh to the Capitol Hill. The reason, the pattern we cannot ignore. I'm 50 years old, probably from the age of 9, I understood what was happening. But I did not realize until December 2025, when Dipu Chandra Das was burning. I was staying in Dhaka, and I have seen, I have realized, I have witnessed, I've been through the trauma. The violence against religious minorities is not random. It follows a disturbing and recognizing pattern. Across multiple administration and political transition, minority communities, particularly Hindus, but also Buddhist, Christian, and indigenous people, have repeatedly faced targeted killings, mob lynching, sexual violence, land grabbing, and forced displacement. destruction of temples and homes, suppression of cultural and religious expression. These are not isolated acts. They are from systematic patterns. I repeat, systematic patterns that often intensify during political instability. We have seen it from 1971 when Pakistani army started Operation Searchlight in April in Bangladesh. Back then, East Bengal. Just remember that Operation Searchlight. We are witnessing warning signs that scholars and genocide researchers describe as early and escalating indicators of mass atrocities. Crimes including dehumanization, organized mob violence, impunity, and forced demographic changes. That's why all my honorable guests, from Michael Rubin to Farhan Ruma, and also other speakers, they have showed you the figures and facts and recent days. So if you just think about it for 1 hour, go back to the memory for 1 hour, from 1971 till today, we are facing the same patterns. They are going after Hindus. The reason I'm saying that, look at the posters right here. What they're doing, they're targeting minorities. They're going after cultural heritage. They're going after media houses. Though if you see, this is a systematic pattern. Why? Just to instabilize the geopolitical system, and Bangladesh is in middle of it. I'll tell you a little bit more. To understand the present, we must confront the history. During the Liberation War in 1971, the Pakistani army launched Operation Searchlight, one of the most devastating campaigns of mass violence in South Asian history. Entire villages were burned. Women were subject to mass sexual violence. Families were driven from their ancestral land. Millions fled to India. Do you remember? I remember. My family had to flee. So what I hear, what I see is echoes of the past in the present. Today, survivors and minority communities report frightening similarities. Recent incidents documented by human rights monitors and international media include public lynching, mob-led killings, and targeted attacks on vulnerable communities. Cases such as killing of Dipu Chandra Das and others have intensified fears. Media include public lynching. So when I say intensified fears, it's not my word. Most recent publication from Washington Post. So now I will be talking about the role of extremism and destabilization. There are some actors behind these stories, behind these events. Bangladesh has long struggled with the influence of extremist groups that exploit political transition and social division. Analysts and regional security experts have repeatedly warned that radical organized and militant networks weaken demographic institutions and fuel communal violence. And do you remember Holy Artisan? We have seen international terrorist groups had cells in Bangladesh, and they have done whatever they are supposed to do. Again, I am not saying that. International media, CNN is saying that. These networks sometimes operate through ideological propaganda, mob mobilization, and coordinated intimidation campaigns. The question we have also been raised, the security expert regarding the cross-border extremist influence in the region. These concerns require careful, independent, and evidence-based investigation by international and US security and intelligence institutions. But why this is matter? Bangladesh is not just a distant nation. It is a strategic partner in the Indo-Pacific region, a contributor to a global peacekeeping, and home to more than 170 million people. Those stability affects global security, economic development, and human interest. So what I'm here to asking for, minority community in Bangladesh are not asking for a special privilege. We are asking basic human rights and dignity, protection under the rule of law. As you know, KONA and Hindu Action displaying a couple of our demands. We strongly urge all of you to raise your voice and help the minorities in Bangladesh and seek justice for Deepu Chandra Das and everyone else. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Shubho. Our next speaker is Adele Nazarian. She is a political analyst and a geopolitical expert. We're also fortunate to have her as our communications director and in charge of our legislative outreach. Adele, please go ahead.
That's Adele.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today for a really important and historic congressional briefing ahead of a absolutely relevant and hallmark, honestly, of an election that is unfortunately not going to have a very good result. But I'm here today to send a message. I want to address, first of all, members of Congress, individuals who are with congressional offices, distinguished guests and friends. Thank you for the privilege of being here today. I want to begin with the truth that should guide every democracy, every alliance, and every foreign policy decision that claims the mantle of moral leadership. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is an environment that allows everyone to flourish, regardless of religion, race, creed, or the social markers that have for far too long been used as dividers. And this message is never more relevant than today, because in Bangladesh, as you know, the very definition of peace is being tested in real time. On February 12th, Bangladesh is scheduled to hold a national election, which is why we're here today. But elections are not just dates on a calendar. They are a measure of whether a state protects its citizens equally, whether law defeats rumor, and whether ballots replace mobs, as we saw, of course, with the lynching of the Hindus recently in Bangladesh. And today we are watching a country of more than 170 million people approach a political cliff. One where democratic form may remain, but democratic substance is being stripped away. Bangladesh's Awami League, the party of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who was forced out of her leadership position by a convergence of radical Islamists and a left-wing, largely anti-corruption and anti-government student movement, is barred from participating in this election. Whatever one's view of Bangladesh is, prior political era, when a major party is excluded from the electoral process, the message sent to society is simple and dangerous. Power is decided by force, not legitimacy. And in fragile democracies, when legitimacy collapses, something else rises to take its place. Organized intimidation, street power, and movements that do not believe in pluralism as a principle, but tolerate it only as a temporary tactic. That is why this election is not merely a domestic Bangladeshi contest. It is a regional and global security event, because the vacuum of democratic inclusion is where extremist ecosystems thrive. In recent years, Jamaat-e-Islami has demonstrated the type of organizational capacity that matters most in moments of chaos,
its disciplined cadres, its student wings, its welfare networks, and the ability to mobilize at scale. And in July of last year, the Associated Press reported that hundreds of thousands rallied in Dhaka in a show of strength. And we should be clear about what changed. In August 2024, Reuters reported that Bangladesh's caretaker government revoked a ban on Jamaat-e-Islami and allied affiliated groups. This reopened political space, and Jamaat has moved quickly to fill it, because movements with long-term ideological goals do not waste historical openings and opportunities. Even now, Bangladesh's political landscape is fractured. Reuters, for example, reports that PNP leader Tariq Rahman rejected a proposal for a unity government from Jamaat-e-Islami, while describing his party as the frontrunner for February 12th. Yet my own conversations with Bangladeshis living in Scandinavia, the UAE, the United States, and other parts of the world suggest a very different story. They do not see Tariq as one of them, and they see him more as an outsider, telling me that he has very little popular support within their home country. That detail matters. It absolutely matters, because it confirms what many observers already recognize. This is not a conventional election. It is a contest taking place under conditions where the balance of power is shaped not only by campaign platforms, but by who can dominate the streets, who can intimidate, and who can silence. And the silence is already spreading, especially among Bangladesh's religious minorities. When rumors become verdicts, when a whisper becomes a death sentence, peace is not merely broken, it is replaced by fear. And fear, when weaponized, is one of the most powerful electoral tools in the world. We all know this. In Bangladesh, we have seen what happens when accusation replaces evidence, and when mobs replace courts, and when the state fails to protect the vulnerable. And this is why I'm standing here before you today. So, this moment, as you all know, is not abstract, but it is urgent. And it is preventable, but only if leadership acts. So what should American leadership look like now? Well, first, clarity. The United States should state unequivocally that a credible election requires political inclusion, a free press, and equal protection under law. International observers are a non-negotiable. You cannot claim democratic legitimacy while banning your major political participation and tolerating intimidation. Second, consequences. Words matter, but follow-through matters more. The United States has leverage, diplomatic, economic, and reputational. If the election environment continues to deteriorate, Congress and the administration must be prepared to use tools that raise the cost of political violence and communal persecution. And third, and perhaps most important, equally important, protection. America should press forward and monitor concrete steps by Bangladeshi authorities to protect religious minorities, prosecute mob violence, and prevent vigilante enforcement. This is not about taking sides in Bangladeshi politics. This is about defending the most basic promise of any state, the equal protection of its citizens. Jamaat-e-Islami's imminent rise is a grim irony for a nation born of a bloody war for independence and built through a hard-won economic progress. Bangladesh has been moving imperfectly but steadily toward greater self-reliance and development, under the previous administration, that is. Handing the keys to an Islamist movement that thrives on ideological control would not correct course. It would only drag the country backwards. We have seen this movie before. It reads like the Iranian Revolution of 1979. A modernizing state destabilized by an alliance of radical Islamists and Marxist student factions, culminating in the removal of the Shah and the installation of a murderous Islamic theocracy. Sheikh Hasina's ouster, under similar pressures, should set off every alarm bell. And then there is a U.S. national security dimension that Americans cannot afford to ignore. Al-Qaeda, the name sounds familiar. the Bangladeshi national and U.S. permanent resident who carried out the ISIS-inspired pipe bomb attack in New York City, in the New York City subway system on December 11, 2017. It's a reminder of what ideological radicalization can metastasize into when exported across borders. And mind you, the United States is home to one of the largest Bangladeshi diaspora communities outside of Bangladesh itself, which means instability and extremist capture abroad reverberate here at home. This isn't Islamophobia. It's sober realism. You can respect Muslims, defend religious freedom, and still call out Islamist movements for what they are. Political projects that weaponize faith, crush dissent, and erode pluralism, often with consequences that don't stop at their own borders. And I live and spend a great deal of time, obviously DC is my home base, but also in the UAE and Dubai, and I can tell you that it's truly, as Michael Rubin said before, a model, an exemplary model for a nation and how it respects religious minorities while being majority Muslim, and it's a beautiful thing. So, to the members of Congress, to those who are, we thank you for being here from the congressional offices to represent the members of Congress. I'm asking you to act in a way that history will recognize as responsible leadership. Request an urgent hearing by the House Foreign Affairs Committee on the pre-election security environment and minority protection. Engage publicly and privately to insist on political inclusion and the rule of law. And make clear that violence, incitement, and intimidation will affect how the United States evaluates Bangladesh's relationship going forward. And to the diplomats here today, this cannot be a solitary American message. It must be an international expectation. If democratic nations do not defend pluralism when it is hard, then pluralism becomes a slogan rather than a standard. Because what happens in Bangladesh does not stay in Bangladesh. It's not like Vegas. Bangladesh sits at a strategic crossroads in South Asia. Instability there will ripple outward, affecting India's eastern flank, border dynamics, refugee pressures, and the broader security picture in the Bay of Bengal. And when organized Islamist currents gain state influence in one country, their ideological and operational echoes rarely respect borders. Let me speak plainly. This is not a question of whether Bangladesh is important enough to merit attention. Bangladesh is already important. It is already central, economically, geopolitically, and demographically. The question is whether the world will treat the February 12th election as a technical event, something to observe, or as a defining moment to shape. Because if we normalize elections without inclusion, we normalize governance without consent. If we normalize violence against minorities, we normalize the idea that some citizens are protected and others are expendable. And if we normalize the quiet erosion of secular foundations and pluralistic safeguards, then we should not be surprised when the next crisis arrives, not suddenly, not anything like that, but steadily, through institutional capture, intimidation, and the gradual replacement of law with fear. I want to end where I began. Peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the presence of dignity. The presence of equal protection, the presence of a society where people are not hunted for what they believe in or silenced for who they are. Bangladesh deserves that peace. Its minorities deserve that protection. And its citizens deserve an election that is more than theater. And the United States, together with partners who still believe in pluralism, has the capacity, and I would argue the responsibility, to raise the cost of intimidation and lower the temperature of hatred. This is not charity, it is strategic. It is leadership, and it is the defense of the democratic principle itself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adele, for that meaningful and impactful message. I would now like to invite Professor Dilip Nath to come to the podium. Professor Dilip Nath is originally from Bangladesh, is a leader and a political activist based in New York. He holds a doctorate in business administration, an MBA in technology management, and an executive certificate in public policy from Harvard University. He is also an AAN HPI Fellow. Please welcome Professor Dilip Nand.
Thank you, Paru, for your kind introduction. Let me be corrected. I'm not a professor. Yes, I do have a designation of assistant professor at Downstate University Health Science Center. By profession, I am a CIO. That's what I do best. But other than that, I'm here with you every once in a while to advocate for the marginalized community. Well, first of all, let me thank the Congress member, those who has raised the issue recently on the floor of the Congress. Firstly, Congressman Tom Suozzi. Last week, here in the Congress, we have celebrated the World Religious Freedom Week. And that week, Congressman Suozzi had recognized the challenge that our Bangladeshi community are facing. And also, along with that, I also want to thank our co-chairman, Congressman Greg Meeks, Bill Hanger, and Julie Johnson, and Sidney Doe. They both have written a letter to the Secretary of the State and to Dr. Yunus of what is happening in Bangladesh. It is not acceptable. They also demand a hearing, and hopefully a hearing will take place soon.
Great.
Thank you. But let me thank Kona and Hindu Action for bringing us together for this congressional hearing. I also want to thank Utsav Chakraborty for his leadership. I also wanted to thank the New York delegation, those who took time off today to be here and to stand with 20 million marginalized Hindus in Bangladesh. I want to thank you for your tenacity and your belief in standing up for justice. Friends, I also stand here before you as a son of survivor from 1992 violence. Bangladesh has been systematically experiencing these atrocities. From 29%, 19%, 9%, you have heard all the statistics. Today, we have merely a 9%. In the last 54 years, Bangladesh has lost 50 million Hindus. 50 million Hindus. But this is just not a simple number. These are human beings that are being displaced from Bangladesh. Friends, what we have seen since the ouster of the Sheikh Hasina government, Bangladesh has simply become a hell house. You have seen it. Over 3,500 police officers have been killed, hanged. Over 2,900 Hindu houses, worship places vandalized. 182 religious minorities been murdered, brutally murdered. 54 women, Hindu women, has been raped, and over 700 of them are subject for sexual violence. Friends, in 2024, 17 churches were burned down to ashes, and many were threatened in 2025. And we are still talking about it. Now, not only that, how about the indigenous people in Chittagong hill tracts, where about 300 families have been displaced. Hundreds of acres of land have been seized by this government. Now, it is clear that religious minority exists only in a perpetual state of fear, and they are only safe in exit lounge. What we have seen the medieval way of killing Dipuranjan Das, where hundreds were watching, and law enforcement officer, but standing by as a bystander. And not only that, insult to the injury, Yunus government essentially has given impunity to this perpetrator. So there is essentially jihadists become, Bangladesh because jihadists happen, and we all become a target of those jihadists. But what is troubling, as we see, there will be election is going to take place in literally a few days from now. And Yunus government has planned to exclude some of the major 14 parties from this election. This is just simply not excluding few political parties from the election. This is called voter suppression. That means 65% of the people, voice, will be suppressed by this election. And as we all have seen, when there is a voter suppression, democracy undermined, and that is directly related to the ethnic cleansing, and religious minority voice will be diminished. This is exactly what is going to happen in Bangladesh. But there is more to it. You know, Yunus has taken over Bangladesh by meticulous design, right? And this is yet another meticulous plan of his to implement Caliphate Islam in Bangladesh. And to do that, he must ensure eliminating all of the religious minority from Bangladesh. To make it ready, and this election is the first big step towards that. Friends, we can no longer sit and watch Yunus government and his regime. We must speak up. We cannot let democracy vanish and human rights vanish, where we subsidize about 25% of the Bangladesh government budget. Our taxpayer dollar, those who are living here in America. We must tell our lawmakers, they must change the way we subsidize Bangladesh government. Particularly those Congress members are sitting in the Ways and Means Committee. I ask the Congress members, please include a clause in the Ways and Means Committee. When you give aid to the Bangladesh, those aid must ensure that it protects the religious minority. That is the only way we can ensure that religious minority are being safe. You know, Dipuranjan Das murder was simply not a murder. Was not just simply burning alive. He was a garment worker. We spoke up about the labor rights, and yet none of the labor union here has spoken, and Bangladesh still export garments here in this country. And we must reject those outlets that sell Bangladeshi-made garments. And we must be committed to do that, because this is how jihadists are being funded. This is how they're using our tax dollar to killing our brothers and sisters in Bangladesh. Friends, I want to leave you with this. There is still time. There is still opportunity for us to rise up and stand up. Speak against these atrocities that are taking place every day in Bangladesh. We can save 20 million Hindus in Bangladesh if we all rise up and speak up against it. And we must denounce the elections that are taking place to suppress the 65% population of Bangladesh and hence religious minorities. So let's not write off Dhaka yet. Let's rise up and fight back. I also wanted to show a simple, less than 3-minute video. You have seen many of them today, but I wanted to underscore something specifically some of the media outlet that has reported. And yet, our Congress has not acted the way they should be acting on this matter. So what we wanted to do from this hearing, and when you go back, I want you to make a call to your Congress member and tell them that you travel all the way from New York, New Jersey, and Boston and other places, and you did not see your Congress member here. Why? There's the election coming in June, and we'll make sure that if you're not addressing our issue, and we will make sure that we are not voting for you in June. That is the only way we are going to make changes. My friend, there are many congressional seats in this country, many congressional seats that we can make a difference. I'll tell you, in my own congressional seat, my congresswoman had won the election by 192 votes. 192 votes. What does that mean? If we go back to our community, if we organize in a small number and make a demand, trust me, we can make a difference. And remember, we made a difference in 192 votes in my own congressional seat. So that means when you go back, if you truly care about your brothers and sisters, organize, call your friend. When you go to your temple, your mosque, your gurdwara, wherever you go for your prayer, tell them, we are going to mobilize this June, and we are going to send a strong signal. If they are not speaking up against the atrocity, if they are not speaking up against the genocide that is taking place in Bangladesh, they do not deserve to get our vote. That's how we're going to make a difference. Thank you for listening to me. And if you can share the video.
At times, makes the loudest sound. Over the past year and a half, that silence has descended upon the lives of many Hindu families in Bangladesh, revealed in the moment someone stands before a broken doorway, in the quiet of sitting beside the ashes of a burned home, or in a long, suppressed sigh, forced into silence by fear. Mothers and sisters, unable to bear the pain any longer, have broken down and cried uncontrollably like children. Others, devastated by the destruction of their places of worship, have fallen silent, standing still, saying nothing, only staring ahead. Let us return briefly to the period after August 5th, 2024. The scale of persecution faced by Hindus in the country grew so vast that if every incident were shown in a single video, it would become as long as a full-length film. Therefore, only the most significant incidents are presented here in brief. After August 5th, 2024, one of the most disturbing killings reported in Bangladesh was the murder of Deepu Chandra Das, a garment worker. He was falsely accused of blasphemy. A mob assaulted him, and the violence escalated beyond control. He was later killed in an act that shocked the nation and raised serious concerns about mob violence, impunity, and the misuse of religious accusations. Soon after, another killing followed in Shariatpur district. Kokon Chandra Das, a small shop owner, was attacked while returning home from work. He later died from his injuries. His death left his family devastated and reinforced growing fears among minority communities. Reports also indicate a rise in sexual violence against Hindu women, alongside increasing risks faced by families who seek justice. In Barguna district, a 7th grade student named Nandini Das was raped when her father, Montu Das, filed a legal case demanding accountability. He was killed. His death sent a chilling message. Even pursuing justice can be life-threatening. In Palashu Bazila of Narsingdi, a Hindu businessman named Monir Chandra was killed. In Daganbuyan, Feni, Samir Kumar Das, an auto rickshaw driver and the sole provider for his family, was murdered. Following his death, his mother suffered severe psychological trauma. These are not isolated incidents. In Rauzan, Chattagram, Hindu residential areas were set on fire and temples were damaged. Homes were reduced to ashes, displacing entire families. In Kilgam, on August 5th, 2024, Hindu homes were attacked and a temple was vandalized. According to BBC reports, extremists carried out a coordinated attack in Dwar Bazaar, Sunamganj, targeting an entire Hindu village and looting property and savings. Residents remained traumatized long after the violence ended. The BBC also reported attacks in Gangachara, Ranpur, where a Hindu village of approximately 2,500 residents faced widespread vandalism and assault. Local sources noted that the community was often viewed as a political vote bank, which may have increased their vulnerability. Taken together, these incidents point to a broader pattern. Hindus in Bangladesh today are not only a religious minority, they increasingly face threats to their safety, dignity, and equal citizenship. Over the past year and a half, the struggle has shifted from protecting rights to simply staying alive.
Sorry. So we want to give a moment to our representative, Tom Barrett, who has made time from his busy schedule to be here and to attend this congressional briefing. We would love to have you share a few words with the audience and the speakers of this briefing.
Thank you so much. My name's Tom Barrett. I come from Michigan's 7th Congressional District, which is kind of the Lansing area, middle of the state of Michigan. And we have such a important community of Indians in Michigan that I have really built a relationship with, and I'm proud to be friends with. Some of whom may be familiar to many of you in this room. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate the partnership of all of you as we look to really carry out the best that we can through Americans' foreign policy to make sure that we're enriching the livelihoods of others across the world. Prior to coming to Congress, I spent 22 years in the United States Army. And really that time that I spent was centered around America's war on terror and the efforts that we undertook throughout the world to really make Americans more safe and really deter Islamic terrorism in particular from confronting Americans and others around the world. And I know that work is still yet unresolved in its full capacity. And while the technical war on terror, Iraq and Afghanistan in particular, war fronts have really wound down, it doesn't mean that the effects of terrorism have completely evaporated around the world. And I know many of you are seeing the effects of that still, and I know that's a big reason why you're here today. And I really encourage you to continue to raise that advocacy with your own members of Congress, with others that you're interacting with here in our nation's capital as you spend your time here doing that. So I really appreciate the awareness that you're raising, the memorials that you've set up for people to bring about a change and a shift in policy to hopefully encourage better outcomes for everyone. So thank you for allowing me to be here today and spend a little bit of time with you. I deeply appreciate that. And I wish you success in your efforts this week. How long are y'all in town for?
Well, I'm local, so.
Okay, well, you're here always then. I imagine most of you probably came from other places and everything.
You're from New York.
Okay, from New York, yeah. That's so definitely as you spend some time here in our nation's capital, I really encourage you to talk to your members of Congress from New York or any other state that you're coming from to really raise this advocacy, because we've got so many things that we look at that it is hard to really become an expert on every single thing. And it really takes people from our districts coming to visit to share their experience with us to help us make the best decisions that we can. So thank you again for allowing me to be with you today.
I just want to invite the two Hindu Action Team members from Michigan who have been instrumental in ensuring that the congressman is here today. So please have a few words, Dr. Anil Kumar.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I have here Ashok Badi, who's also running from Michigan 56. 56.
Oh, great.
We also bring compliments from Sonny Reddy.
Yeah, Governor Reddy.
To Governor Reddy. He's part of the governors with me at Wayne State University.
Yeah.
But we really, really want to appreciate that you have taken the time to come here and support this cause. And from our point of view, we will make sure that we support you, because this is what we need to do as Indian Americans, is support congressmen, support the elected members that support our causes. So thank you very much. Ashok, if you want to say something.
Sure. Thank you, Congressman Tom, for being here. And like the professor was earlier saying, these are the kind of politicians that we must support. They have showed up to us on such a short notice. So I would request, big round of applause for Congressman Tom. Thank you, Ken.
Can I ask one question? I'm a journalist. Congressman Tom, the picture you are seeing, these are killed Hindus in Bangladesh by Yunus, Dr. Yunus. He's a very good friend of us, in United States. Would you condemn, because they are so-called election called these 12, and they are banning the most and one of the oldest political party, not
Right.
only. So what is your comment on that?
Yeah.
That stop this election, or Jamaat Islami, a terrorist organization told by Michael Rubin in this room just 1 hour ago, will you ask to our most popular president, Donald Trump, and someone to stop this in Bangladesh, killing on Hindus?
Yeah, I mean, certainly none of us support the killing of anybody for ethnic or religious or other purposes whatsoever. Rigging of elections or canceling political parties, free speech. I will be totally honest with you. I'm a little less familiar with the internal politics of Bangladesh than I am, here in the United States, and it's something that all of you being here in an advocacy role helps familiarize me and other members of Congress with what that means and what we ought to be aware of. But certainly, all of us stand for the foremost principles of freedom and autonomy and individual rights and liberties that we all hope and strive for around the world, that unfortunately we see, fall short many times. So, like I said, being here today and bringing awareness to this is a really important step in that direction.
Thank you. So
Thank you, Congressman, so much.
One more question. Just the first one. Would you please get in touch with Mark Rubio for the current election, current situation of
Thank you so much.
and please, if you can send a note for it will be better to us.
We are so appreciative of Congressman Ted for your time and your patience with us.
We will be in touch with the Congressman's office soon.
Thank you so much. Protect the religious minority of Bangladesh.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
So again, all of you who are present have been listening so patiently. I appreciate your courage and your patience. We have two important elements of our society that are yet to speak. Our next speaker is Farida Yasmin. She represents a cornerstone of democracy, which is press freedom. She is the president of the National Press Club of Dhaka. Please listen to her message as she sheds her light and opinion on the current unfolding situation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon.
Where is the,
Minorities, Awami League leaders, activists and supporters, as well as the media are all being subjected to persecution in various ways across the country in Bangladesh. So I am a media professional, so I just elaborate or present the current situation of media in our country. I would like to present the current situation of media to you. For the past 18 months, Bangladesh has been governed by an unelected interim government led by Dr. Yunus. You all are watching the videos, the Priya Shaha and Arifa Roma
represented in this event, you all knows what is going on in our country. This period, 18 months, at least 50 journalists and writers across the country have been imprisoned. Among the most notable cases are Farjana Rupa, Shakil Ahmed, both are journalists of Ekattur TV, Mojammil Babu, CEO of Ekattur TV, and Shamul Datto, General Secretary of National Press Club, and editor of the daily Bhorer Kagoj. All of them have been charged with murder. They have been identified by the Committee to Protect Journalists, CPJ, as imprisoned journalists requiring urgent attention. Veteran journalist Anisa Lungir has also been detained under the Anti-Terrorism Act. Renowned writer and cultural activist Shahryar Kabir, aged 80 years, has also been detained on murder cases. Beyond those currently jailed, hundreds of journalists are facing criminal charges, arrest warrants, prolonged legal uncertainty, creating a pervasive climate of fear and self-censorship. Forceful takeover of national press clubs and shake-ups in media leadership. Following the removal of the Awami League government, journalists aligned with some political party forcibly occupied the press club. The offices of the president and secretary were vandalized and seized. Some elected leaders were removed and an unelected committee was declared. A journalist known to support the values of the Liberation War were expelled from the committee, with others were included without constitutional or organizational legitimacy. This unauthorized committee subsequently suspended the membership of approximately 200 journalists in a non-constitutional manner. This committee also annulled the membership of the elected sitting president, myself, and Secretary General Shamul Datto. They have sealed off the Union Office, which supports the ideal of the Liberation War. According to Transparency International of Bangladesh, TIB, after 5th August 2024, sudden changes took place in top editorial positions across several media houses, often under political influence. At least 8 newspaper editors and 11 TV news chiefs are removed or forced to resign, while many senior newsroom positions saw politically aligned replacements. The Media Reform Commission reported leadership changes in 9 media outlets, alongside a transfer of ownership at one online portal. Administrative and financial repression. As part of the ongoing crackdown, accreditation cards of suspended journalists were cancelled, effectively barring them from professional work. Furthermore, murder cases were filed against nearly 300 journalists, and bank accounts belonging to journalists were frozen, placing severe financial and psychological pressure on media professionals and their families. According to new research by TIB, at least 1,073 journalists and media workers were subject to attacks, lawsuits, killings, threats, harassment, detention. 6 journalists were killed. On 2025 December, a group of miscreants set fire to the offices of 2 of the country's leading daily newspapers, the Daily Star and Pratham. An attack was also carried out on Nurul Kabir, the president of the Editors' Council. These incidents are blatant attacks on the media. Most recently, last Saturday, the army entered a media office and detained one journalist, detained 11 journalists. They were later released after questioning. I want to some data about what is the situation of women in Bangladesh. Women in Bangladesh are increasingly unsafe. According to a report of Bangladesh Mohila Porishad, volunteer-based women's human rights organization, in January alone, 31 women and girls were raped, only 1 month, including 11 victims of gang rape. 2 of the victims were murdered following the assaults. Something simply must be said. According to data from Ainu Salish Kendra, from after the mass uprising of 2024 until December 2025, 112 people died in custody. Among the deceased, a significant number were leaders, activists of the Awami League. In November 2024 alone, at least 4 Awami League leaders, activists died while in custody at Bohura jail. They had been detained as accused in cases of sabotage or murder. Prison authorities claim that the deaths occurred due to heart attack or other illness. But the families of the deceased did not accept these claims. The son, one of the victims, told BBC Bangla in an interview that his father had never suffered from heart disease. Recently, Abdurrahman Mia, the 81-year-old vice president of Ward number 24, North Agrabad, Awami League in Chattogram, died suffering from lung cancer. He reportedly died slowly in prison after being denied necessary medical treatment. Similarly, former Industries Minister Nurul Mojid Humayun also died, although he was taken to a hospital in his final moments. Even after his death, his hands remained handcuffed. Conclusion and appeal. The cumulative effect of killings, arbitrary detention, institutional capture, and administrative punishment represent one of the most severe assaults of press freedom in Bangladesh history. These actions violate Bangladesh's constitutional guarantees as well as its obligations under international human rights instruments, including Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. We urgently call upon the international community, press freedom organizations, and human rights bodies to closely monitor the situation, demand the accountability for the violations of human rights, for the killings of journalists, advocate for the immediate release of those detained without due process, and press for the restoration of professional rights and institutional independence. A free and independent press is not a political favor. It is a fundamental pillar of democracy and justice. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Farida Yasmin, for that urgent appeal. I would like to invite Sudha Jagannath.
Thank you everybody for your patience and all of your testimonies that really spoke to what's going on in Bangladesh. Thank you all. But our future is our young people. I have a bunch of young students and young professionals here. Some of them came all the way from New York City because they are Bangladeshi Hindu-American young people and they wanted to be here. So let me welcome first Ritvik Hari. He is a Kona policy intern at George Mason University. He is also a program manager for our Bangladesh campaign. By the way, I am on the board of Kona. I'm going to invite the 4 young students from the Bangladeshi Hindu community in New York. We have Pooja Devi, we have Swastika Biswas, Sayan Shin, and Pramit Acharji. Before I hand the microphone to Ritvik, and each of the others also will speak a minute, I want to call out two young people here who traveled a long way to join us here and just be here as young people. We have Ahimsa Yukta, who came all the way from...
Yes, you should be there.
She's a
You gotta
graduate
be there.
from Hindu Action Pathfinder. Now she's going to be a policy fellow at Kona. And we have Bhavana Akula, she traveled from UPenn, Pennsylvania. I want to let you know, this is what our young people can do. 2024,
You're supposed to be there.
after the regime change and the violence that we all saw, she didn't know much about Bangladesh because she's an American. She single-handedly got a grant from UPenn, organized a conference on Bangladesh with Bangladeshi experts. We want more students to show the same motivation. So thank you for welcoming them. Now I'm going to have Ritvik speak, and Ritvik can.
All right, firstly, good afternoon. I'd like to first thank the members of Congress and their staffers for taking the time to come out today. I know it's a very busy week, very busy schedule for you all, so thank you for taking the time to meet with us and to listen to our concerns. The attacks against Hindus and other religious minorities, not just Hindus, but Christians, Buddhists, Jains, in Bangladesh is an issue that we should all be concerned about, even though we are over 8,000 miles away. As a Hindu and even just as a human being, it is absolutely horrifying to hear the different attacks that are taking place. Whether that's somebody's body being beat up because they said something on social media, or just because they are of a different religion. It's absolutely horrifying. In the US, we are treated so well and have the fortune to have so many protections, allowing us to practice any religion we please, or no religion at all. Other countries have taken advantage of that. The United States has a long-standing commitment to promoting religious freedom globally, which is why we, as concerned Hindu Americans, urge members of Congress and the U.S. State Department to take action against Bangladesh. We urge you to first publicly condemn the actions of the Bangladeshi government against their own citizens. Next, we urge the U.S. State Department to hold Bangladesh accountable by designating Bangladesh as a country of particular concern.
That's right.
And use our stance as a major investor in Bangladesh's economy as leverage. And finally, our members of Congress, we urge you to hold congressional hearings on the violation of human rights in Bangladesh and on promise that Bangladesh will respect their citizens. The United States has taken so many steps to protect religious freedom within our own country. And now it is time that the United States uses our power to influence other countries into protecting religious freedoms within their own minorities. Thank you.
Bravo.
Hi everyone, my name is Cheyenne Shill and I'm a young engineer and an American Bengali Hindu. I'm incredibly honored to speak today on behalf of my people. We are the indigenous faith and vibrant living identity of Bangladesh. And we are on the precipice of extinction by the sword of un-Islamic terrorism. I hope that after this conversation, we can collectively understand that the future of my people hinges on conversations like these in these closed rooms. And so I want to start by talking about myself. I'm an engineer, I'm a relay protection supervisor working in the utilities in New York. And every single day, we work with dangerous commodities, high voltage, things that can kill people. And the one thing that we rely on, it isn't a glove, it isn't a sticker, it's the concept of psychological safety. In Bangladesh, that assumption has collapsed. There is no psychological safety for the Bengali Hindus. For them to speak up is a death sentence. I want to raise awareness that there is a global religion-based project, a weaponized religion, where groups like Jamaat-e-Islami have a mission to terrify people into submission. and outrank the law of Bangladesh. It's ironic that the same coalition of ideology, which ironically preaches to have peace in the Middle East, will hypocritically turn their back on the bloodshed of a 4,000-year-old legacy and heritage taking place on their own soil. My family lost land, and we were pushed out decades ago from conflicts like these. We had to flee our home. We had to start fresh. And this is not an uncommon experience. Many people in this room know people, or have frankly experienced this themselves. And this isn't old stuff. This is today. This is now. Workers being burned where they sleep. Students who vanish and return home as corpses. Temples attacked, homes desecrated. Violence and silence and delayed bureaucracy. So if it strategically aligns, the Hindus of Bangladesh would like to ask that un-Islamic terrorism of all kind are designated as it is, a global cancer pervading now Bangladesh and all parts of the world. And it's an all too familiar trope that many of us talk about in the news, in the media, daily, but it deserves continued reinforcement. So please, let's extend protection to one of the oldest surviving civilizations in not just Asian history, but really human history. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pooja Devi, and I'm currently a third year at Stony Brook University and studying health science. I'm grateful to Kona and Hindu Action for giving me the chance to speak today. I'm a proud co-founder of a youth-led social media page called Bengali Hindus of New York City, which was launched in August 2024 to document the major events in Bangladesh impacting Hindus and other minority groups. And we're now reaching an average of 15,000 people a month. It's incredibly important for these platforms like ours to exist to communicate information regarding this atrocious genocide. And I want to say this plainly. What's happening in Bangladesh is not distant to me. It is my family, my identity, and a kind of fear that follows you even when you live 10,000 miles away. I grew up in a deeply religious home where faith was integral to identity. My father is a religious instructor and a priest, and he began leading Gita schools when he was only 18 in Bangladesh. He didn't work out of power. He built it out of duty to raise children with a spine made out of dharma, so we could grow up with faith and identity instead of shame. But in Bangladesh, where one religion is treated as the default and the rest is disposable, a teacher becomes a target. Many have been forced out of their jobs and pressured to resign simply for being Hindu amid rising intolerance and discrimination.
Shame.
In the aftermath of political change, at least 49 Hindu educators were reported to have been forced to resign from postings across the country, some subjected to threats and violence in the process. This isn't a distant fear, it's happening now. And just in the last month, Shakranti, a centuries-old harvest festival celebrated with prayer, community gatherings, and cultural tradition, was threatened and shut down as a group of people forcefully claimed a stance of power rooted in the beliefs engraved to them. It was not just about a holiday. It was a message about who is allowed to be visible. And this is only one thread in a long pattern of ongoing ethnic cleansing. From temples vandalized to homes burned, from teachers forced out of classrooms to chains of silence pulled tight around truth. The Hindu community is living in a condition of deep insecurity and existential threat, especially as political unrest intensifies ahead of elections. This is why I raise my voice, not out of anger alone, but out of devotion. to truth, to dharma, and to hope that education and empathy can build bridges that violence seeks to burn down. So today, I'm asking you to help keep that bridge standing, to witness, to speak, and to protect the right of people to learn, to pray, and to exist without fear. Thank you.
Great job. Wow. Great speech too.
Good afternoon. My name is Pramit Acharji, and I am grateful for the opportunity to speak here today alongside the Coalition of Hindus of North America. I'm currently a senior at the Bronx High School of Science, where I run the Hindu student organization there, and from that I know the power that unified action has. And with that background, I want to share what rights monitors have documented over the past year. The Bangladesh Hindu, Buddhist, and Christian Unity Council, which is the country's principal minority rights organization, reported that after former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned in August of 2024, well over 2,000 acts of violence occurred against vulnerable communities in just the first 2 weeks. This included my mom's community in Hobiganj, where police sub-inspector, as you might have seen in the last video, Santosh Chaudhary, was lynched after being handed over to a mob by none other than the Bangladeshi army. He was 2 months away from his first anniversary and 3 months away from the birth of his child. The assaults, forced evictions, and instances of arson have persisted in the hundreds every month onward. And this coming Thursday marks Bangladesh's first general election since. There's a widespread and misinformed sentiment that all the minority groups there tend to vote one way, and this further proliferates atrocities committed against them. Today, minority families are being forced by the Jamaat-e-Islami party to vote one way, and they are killed or displaced if they do not comply. Not only can they not safely participate in what is supposed to be a democratic process, but I fear for what my family there might step out of the house to. After all, their friends and neighbors have been driven away for speaking out. Countless churches have been leveled. Vegetarian restaurants have been forced to start serving meat. Hindu holidays have either become targets for mob violence or have been banned outright by government bodies. These are incidents beyond aggregation, and yet they often go unreported because the journalists working on them are murdered. I grew up in the United States, where fair elections and religious freedom are often taken for granted. Through my family in Bangladesh, I see what happens when those protections erode. If democratic processes are to mean anything, minority communities must be able to participate without fear as well. And that is why Congress's oversight role matters here. Thank you again for your time and attention.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Swastika Biswas. I'm a junior in Benjamin N. Cardozo High School from Queens, NYC. As a co-founder of a youth-led NYC social media organization, it is our duty to provide recognition and educate the youth in my community. To most years, my name arrives stained by a disgusting history that was never mine. But in Hindu life, swastika is a heinous symbol. It is a blessing. It is the quiet wish that a home stays standing, that a child stays safe, that a peace can live in public. In Bangladesh, we are watching how language unfolds into permission. Words like a fear aren't just theology. It is a denigration that diminishes a person's humanity. And when extremist ideology like Jamaat-e-Islami and its ecosystem preach identity as a hierarchy, the damages take place not only in riots or broken temples, it carries subconscious implications in the mind. The origination of Kaif arrives in the context of murder, persecution, and hellfire. Language that, when extracted to extremes, led to an eerie air of fearful dread in Hindu villages. So I am here to reclaim what was stolen. My name returned to what ancestral meaning it has meant in our indigenous faith: well-being, Let Bangladesh be a place where no one has to translate their name into safety. And if we call this complicated and stay neutral, neutrality is not peace, it is a permission.
That's right.
Being here and able to share my voice in a space like this is an honor. And I hope my words encourage awareness, understanding, and meaningful actions moving forward. Thank you.
Let's give these young folks another round of applause, please.
Yes, yes.
And we want everybody to take a few minutes to look at the posters. Please do not ignore the posters. These posters, when we look at it, we honor those victims. They are not victims, they have names. Let's remember those names. So I ask you that, and with that, I'm not going to talk too much. You all heard the story, and you know what you have to do. What do you have to do? Tell me, what are you going to do next?
Speak up. Don't be silent.
What are you going to do next? No. You have 3 things to do. Demand a congressional briefing. Call your Congress members. Demand a congressional hearing here on Capitol Hill. Number 2, designate Bangladesh as a country of particular concern. Number 3 is to have the State Department designate Jamaat-e-Islami Party as a foreign terror organization. They are not just foreign, they are on US soil right now.
That's
this
right.
is a danger for us. So,
Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood.
No, wait a second. Everybody, you have a task to do. These 3 things. Call your Congress members. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time. Okay. All right, everybody come up. Everybody. Come on.
Down the hearing today, now it's time to do the press briefing of the National Press Club. Please join, and all the media, please join us. Thank you.
Everybody is